We're almost at the end of the season now, and as much as we finished in the bottom six of the Scottish Premiership, relegation has long since been averted. So another season in the Premiership secured. The problem is the club has now been described as penniless, which might harm our chances of a rebuild this summer. Hello and welcome back to Unemployed to Legend, Club 2 Episode 3 with Dundee United. My name is Craig and coming up in today's video is the final two games of the league season against Livingston and Ross County. Two teams, actually no, just one of them is involved in a relegation battle, so possible interesting last day for Ross County depending how they do before the last game of the season. But since you were last with me, we've got a bunch of games under our belts since that Hibernian game back in February. We had a bit of a blip after that Hibernian game, but we thankfully managed to turn it around thanks to some match fitness preparation that we did in March. And since then we've gone on a very good run, which, as much as it didn't get us into the top six in the Scottish Premiership, as you can see just about right next to my head, we were in the relegation group, as in the bottom six of the Premiership, which is a bit of a shame. We only lost out to Motherwell because we didn't beat them just before the league split about 3 games ago. But overall, I'm not too fussed about being in the bottom six because not only are we safe from relegation, but it allows us to hopefully build some confidence at the end of the season going into the summer and what will hopefully be a rebuild. But the problem is, like I described in the introduction to this video, we've been described as penniless. We are insecure financially, we are in debt, even after we get some money for finishing 7th or 8th in the league, which is where we are going to be finishing. We'll still be fairly insecure, which is a bit of a problem. Now, finances wise, for the transfer budget, we are guaranteed a minimum £1.05 million, but let's be honest, that's not going to be enough. So chances are, could we be having to sell some of our best players this summer? I'm looking at the likes of Paul Neville, Lewis O'Donnell, who, by the way, Lewis O'Donnell, he actually finished, I think, 41st in the top 50 for next-gen players. So we have a genuine superstar on our hands here, from the 19-year-old Scottish midfielder. But the problem is, as much as he's worth up to £6.8 million, he has a release clause, £5.25 million, and that's a new contract from January as well. It was originally £5 million, gave him a new contract, but he would not remove the minimum fee release clause, which is a bit of a problem. Although saying that, if we did make £5.25 million off of him, off another club for him, we would get 100% back into the transfer budget, which, to be fair, I would absolutely take. But the problem is, would we rather keep him for next season, especially considering he is easily the best midfielder in this club, apart from Paul Neville. But Paul Neville is more of a right winger. Yeah, 4.5 stars. So he's having to play as central midfield today. You'll find out why in just a moment. So this is going to be the 11 that we're going to send out for the first match against Livingston. Vickers in goal, a back four: Strapp, O'Connor, Odesina and Gardner-Hickman, with a midfield of Middleton, Neville and Mane. Bradley on the right wing, and Stewart and Declan Glass are the two main men up front. It is a slight rotation from the last match because we only just played a few days ago and we've got 2 matches in the space of about 4 days. So really this is a chance for us to see how the squad, or rather how different members of the squad will be playing, and to see if there's anybody who I'm convinced we should keep for next season and who we're going to try and get rid of this summer. I already have a few names in my head on both sides of the fence, but there are a couple of players who I am a little bit sceptical about. I mean, one player I'm definitely not sceptical about is Glenn Middleton, our left winger, because when we had that little blip that I mentioned just at the start of the video, yeah, Glenn Middleton was the big reason for it. Not because he was playing, but because of his unhappiness at not playing enough, which seemed a bit silly to me because he was playing ever since I've actually joined this club. It's a hangover from the previous manager, and Glenn Middleton has brought his grievances and put them on me and brought about half the squads into the argument with him. So I've got about 12 players who agree that Glenn Middleton should be getting more game time, and I've got about 11 people who actually are against Middleton getting more playing time. So the squad is split right down the middle for how much game time that he should be getting. Speaking of the man, here he is with the free kick, puts it into the area, and it's just off the bar. I'm not ignoring the game, by the way, but I just had to get that off my chest about Middleton causing ructions in the squads in the second half of the season. But he has played well for us, and he seems to be doing okay, I think, as well. Well, 6.7 so far. I think, can you see that? No, it's just behind my head. He's doing okay at the moment. But so far, 1-0 up after 23 minutes. Solid start to the match. But as far as Middleton goes, he's actually out of contract at the end of this month, so he's not going to be staying around. He doesn't want to sign a new contract. So I've already set him for release. Even though he's been performing well, I would rather not keep players around who are going to cause problems, certainly morale problems in the squad, and split the squad completely down the middle for whether he should be getting more game time or not. So he's on his way out. He's not a player I've got any quabbles about letting go. This guy, though, Declan Glass, I am considering whether we should keep him on for another season. I hope he just didn't hear me there and got demotivated. Or if we should cash in on him in the summer. He is one of the good players of the squad, but unless he stays as a deep line forward, he's really not going to be a part of my plans for next season, because I don't see him really as a midfielder. He's a playmaker. In fact, we've got a couple of those in the squads, but I just don't envision using a playmaker at this stage. Certainly while we're a mid-table Scottish Premiership side. Maybe if we were like top 1 or 2 or even third best team in Scotland, then I'd consider it, because that means we'd be effectively better than the majority of the Premiership. But for now, a playmaker is not in my plans to use for this side. Right, 1-0 at half time. We have created a number of chances, but as is the story of our season, or certainly the second half of this season, we create a lot of chances and we just don't seem to be putting them in the back of the net until much later, usually when the opposition start tiring. But the problem is then we start tiring, so it just becomes a bit of a ding-dong battle. And that relegation battle is looking very tight down at the bottom. St Johnstone, I know, are in the bottom 2. In fact, I don't even know what the league table is. I know it doesn't matter to us, but obviously we're playing Ross County on the final day of the season, who are in the bottom... No, they're near the bottom 2. It's going to be a heck of a last day of the season for those guys. O'Connor, Nebel into Stewart. He does keep the ball, and he finally does put one in the back of the net. I should have mentioned, Stewart is in for Johnny Kenny. He did pick up a knock. He should be back for the next game. I was going to start Johnny Kenny for this one and Ross Stewart for the last game. I'm having to swap that around instead. And that's because Johnny Kenny has actually started scoring goals again. He bagged a hat-trick in the last league game. So I thought, okay, you know what, let's try and keep you in. Let's see if we can get a bit of a run out of you. But then he picks up a knock. Not very handy, is it? And as far as central midfield goes, Nebel is in central midfield at the moment because... Oh, that was terrible from O'Connor. And good save by Vickers there. Nebel is in central midfield at the moment because we've picked up a number of injuries in central midfield. Fornar is out until the beginning of next season. And what a block there. Wintle is out for the rest of the month. So basically the rest of the season anyway. Because they've both picked up season-ending injuries, which is a bit of a shame. Right, Nebel is very tired, as is Mane. I'll tell you what, O'Donnell is going to come on, as is Nebel. Can Sadlier play as a box-to-box? Well, not really. Oh, good grief. He can play as a central midfielder. Let's just have a look. I'm not convinced, so I'll tell you what, he's more of a central midfielder. O'Donnell can be the box-to-box. I know he's very tired. Not much else we can do there. Edwards is going to come on as well for O'Connor, who's looking very, very tired, very leggy. You can say the same about a lot of players, but we're almost at the end of the season now, so hopefully it won't matter too much. Middleton with the free kick, and it has gone over. Certainly, I feel the core of the squad is there. I mean, we do well against teams in the bottom half of the league, which is absolutely fine. That's what we want. However, we're still a long way off from the top of the league, which is a bit of a shame. We're just going to make a couple of changes. May as well just waste down the time. Freeman is going to come on for... What's his name again? Gardner Hickman. Why the double barrel? And Ross Stewart is going to come off for Ovura Edwards, who is back from injury. Should have mentioned he has come back a few games ago. We're just building his match fitness up for the end of the season, and then we'll go again with him in pre-season and for the new season, unless we sell him on. Like I said, it's going to be a purge in the summer. I just hope we have the finances to do it, otherwise we're just relying on free transfers. Right, Livingston beaten 2-0. And now we go. Oh no, are we going away? I think we're at home against Ross County. We'll keep an eye on how these three do down here, because that is looking precarious for Ross County, St Johnstone, and even Inverness. Inverness are almost down. But we'll be back for the final game of the season. Second game now of the episode against Ross County. Final chance for the boys to impress in the final league game of the season. So it's Vickers still in goal. Still a back. Actually, I don't know if there's actually been a couple of changes. In fact, there has. Back four of Cunningham, Morrison, Edwards and Freeman. Ovura Edwards is on the left wing because Middleton is tired, so he'll accompany O'Donnell and Mane in midfield. Bradley on the right wing with Paul Neville getting a rest. And Kenny returning to the starting lineup with Stewart's alongside him up front. Like I said, last chance for some of these players to impress, especially those who we may or may not keep around for next season. Vickers, who's starting in goal, and he has been every single game this season. I'll probably keep him around for next season, but I'd probably like him to be a backup rather than an actual starter. So certainly a goalkeeper I will be on the lookout for in the summer. As well as maybe some faster defenders, tall defenders as well. And maybe one or two strikers, unless we're able to get Johnny Kenny back on loan from Celtic. It still blows my mind we got Kenny from Celtic when we did. But I've mentioned it before in previous episodes. Clearly Celtic just have a bunch of riches when it comes to strikers up front, as seen by the fact that they are the Scottish champions yet again. I think this is the third season in a row that they've won it, which is not uncommon in Scotland. I think the record is jointly held by Celtic and Rangers, where it's 9 league titles in a row for both teams. Both teams, of course, vying for that all-important 10 in a row, which would give them bragging rights, as Kenny, he is through here and he's got all the time in the world to pick his spots, and that is a great finish. 17 minutes on the clock. Dundee United 1, Ross County 0, and that is a very good reason, very good example right there of why I want to bring Kenny back next season. If he gets more game time, which he hasn't had much of in the second half of this season, he will be a good marksman. I think that's his 9th goal in 10 games for us. Well, this is his 10th game actually in the league for us, and he scored 9. I think that's a very good indicator we have a good Premiership striker on our hands. With no Europe next season, naturally, when we've finished in the bottom half of the league, I think it's just a good chance to not only establish ourselves further in the Premiership, but also try and break into the top 6 and maybe even challenge for Europe, depending on the calibre of player that we get in the summer. It's going to be interesting to see what budgets we're going to get from the boards, as we are described now again as not even penniless, but cash strapped. Great tackle there by Mane. Another player I want to bring back for next season. Kenny's got all the time in the world, but he should have put it into the far corner. Again, it's just consistency that we need out of him. I did mention we were going to keep an eye on the relegation battle at the bottom of the league, as that corner is just headed over. Ross County, of course, fighting St Johnstone and Inverness to avoid the drop to the Championship. I know Dundee United was one of those teams who came up last season as the champions. I don't know who actually came up with them. That's a very poor pass. Who was that? Was that O'Donnell? Yeah, I think O'Donnell is very tired. I've had messages from my coaching staff to give him a break. But of course, this being the last game of the season, as we go in at half-time 1-0 up, plus the fact that Wintle and Fornar are both injured, of course, until basically next season, O'Donnell has to play. We do have Paul Neville on the bench, and I was going to start Paul Neville, except for the fact that O'Donnell and Neville apparently can't play well together. It's basically like Ross Stewart and Declan Rice. They can't play well together, apparently. I need to have a check on both of their, personalities is the word I'm looking for, and just see if it's a complete clash between the two of them. If it's both balanced, then I don't know what the problem is. Great ball there. Oh, Kenny just about keeps hold of it, but that's a very, very good ball. I think that was Stewart, who won't be credited with the assist because the defender intercepted. But Kenny does very well to hold on to this. Let's have a look. Nice ball through here to Stewart by Bradley. And it was Stewart who played the ball through. Yeah, the defender tried to win it, but To no avail, and Kenny has, I think, his 10th goal of the season. He is going to be willing to stay here, I believe. I think I've already had a look about a month or so ago. He's willing to extend his stay for next season, but it's going to be a case of are Celtic even going to allow him, or they're going to think, oh, we got a striker here who can do well. Oh, great save there by Vickers. He positions himself very well. But if Celtic don't want to let him come back to us on loan, then nothing we can really do, because I doubt we'll be able to afford him. His value would have gone up in the time that he's actually been here. Right, it is currently 70 minutes, so let's see who is tired. Quite a few players. Fabio Mane, oh boy. I don't really want to bring on Paul Neville because O'Donnell and Neville, as mentioned, can't play well together. Who could he come on for? Mikason? I don't think this guy's even played for me. He's another playmaker. My goodness. Has he even played this season? He was a regular. Oh. He was a regular until I arrived, and then he hasn't played a single game. That's a lie. He played against Celtic. Says it all. Right, I don't really want to bring him on just yet. We'll see how long we can make that last. Johnny Kenny is having a good game. I'll tell you what, Declan Glass is going to come on. And do you know what? Mane's going to come off. He is tired. Neville and O'Donnell, they're just going to have to play well together for the final 20 minutes. Or at least until O'Donnell comes off. Oh, that's just almost been deflected in. He's just off the post. Very well worked. Let's just see how well Neville and O'Donnell do for these final few minutes. They work okay together to hold on for us in the final game of the season, then absolutely fine. Let's make a couple of substitutions here. Lewis Strapp's going to come on for Cunningham, who is now a team leader. We've got our first team leader of the entire series. And looking at my central defenders, Edwards is tired. Moore Taylor has been completely ignored by me, despite my assistant manager saying we should play him. I mean, he played well. That's the friendlies that we played. He's played against Rangers both times. Really? Okay. And Middleton is, you know what, he can just be rested. That's the last we'll be seeing of Middleton because he will be leaving at the end of the season. Strap with the free kick. Oh, almost headed in. Who was that? It was one of my centre-backs anyway. I have no idea which one it was because I can't keep up with them when they're running. Just passing it around calmly at the back. That's what I like. And that's the sort of player I would like to find in the summer. Just players who are able to also keep hold of the ball. Unlike Bradley. Not quite good, are you? Oh, thank goodness that went wide. But Bradley's not the most convincing backup, unfortunately, to Neville. I've completely also ignored the relegation battle that has basically been happening. But we've made light work. Well, I say light work. We've done a professional job against Ross County. We've done our bit against them, even though we probably didn't need to. But I wanted us to finish the season as strongly as possible. Good work, lads. Very good second half of the season to get away from the bottom three. And we have sent Ross County into the relegation playoff against whoever's in the Championship. Inverness go down. St Johnstone will be staying up fairly comfortably in the end, 35 points. And I was thinking we'd need about 40 to stay up. Thankfully, it was only 31. But look at the points total. 60! We should have finished 4th. Oh my goodness. We should have finished 4th. That's horrendous. Terrace fans want a permanent deal struck for Kenny. Oh yeah, I never mentioned, did I? The nickname of Dundee United is the Terrors. And that's what we want to be to the top half of the league next season. Well done by Kenny, just to show you how well he has actually done. 10 goals in 9 league appearances. 8 of them starts. I want this man back for next season. How much is he available for? He should be tested in a different environment and therefore would prefer not to loan the player to Dundee for now. Oh, they want 1.8 million for him. Come on, man. What do you mean he should be tested in a different environment? He should be tested in the Premier League for next season as well. Are we going to get any budgets before I end this episode? Oh, it's exactly the minimum, 1.05. and it's the same wage budget. So as it stands, we have about 5,000 spare in the wage budget. Of course, we are going to be losing players. About how many? 6, 7. There's about 7 players. Some of whom we're actually paying wages as well for these loan players. Why we're paying 4,300 for Jordan Smith, I don't know. I've not used him at all. That's going to be a chunk of money we are going to save because he is not staying. Mane's going back at the end of May. I hope to bring him back. Johnny Kenny, we are going to have to figure out what to do about him because I hope to bring him back, but if Celtic are not willing, my hands are tied. We might have to sell a couple of players for the next episode. During the next episode, which of course will be the transfer window. We will hopefully be doing a rebuild, aka the purge, as much as these budgets will allow us to. So we will be back for the season review and transfers in the next episode as we prepare for the big purge that is coming our way this summer. If you have enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the like button down below and smash the big red subscribe button so you don't miss the upcoming rebuild and transfer window as we prepare for the new season in the Premiership. Thank you all so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next episodes.